Hey, welcome to the Pinocchio Project. I'm your host, Mitch Friedman. And first thing I need to do is say I'm sorry that I've been a little bit irregular in getting Pinocchio projects out to you. The last couple weeks have been insane. And I always want to be fairly consistent in putting the podcast out in your bin so you can experience it and enjoy it, consume it, learn from it, grow from it, become more wise as a result. But the last couple of weeks have been, like I said, very much accelerated and compressed. Hopefully the rest of this month, May of 2023, I'll be a little more consistent for you. One of the big reasons that we've been so busy is the Colson Fellows program. And I'm going to tell you about the Colson Fellows program today. Everything that the Pinocchio Project has to offer that's positive has been influenced by the Colson Center for Christian Worldview, and also me being a commissioned Colson Fellow. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But the first thing I want to do is relate our cultural moment to the movie The Matrix, the first one. There was some similar scenes that that occur in the later sequels, but in the original movie, Neo, Keanu Reeves, doesn't know it until very late in the movie, in the story, but he is actually the messianic figure that has been chosen to expose what's not real, what's false, life in the Matrix, and to promote and live according to reality. And then as the story progresses, he goes through a variety of what we would call religious and philosophical changes based on his encounter of the false, life in the Matrix, and the dis-ease of comparing life in the Matrix to what he knows is a better life. And throughout the movie, the antagonist, the officers, or the representatives and protectors of the Matrix, are all named Agent Smith. And Hugo Weaving, if you remember Hugo, he is the head Agent Smith of all of them, and he's Neo's nemesis, trying to take Neo out of his realization profile of that there's something more than the false life offered by the Matrix. And the thing that reminds me of our cultural moment is one of the last scenes in the original movie where there's three Agent Smiths in a corridor facing Neo, and the Agent Smiths pull out their weapons and they fire at him, and the bullets can be seen moving in slow motion toward Neo. And Neo, with this new power, this new enlightenment, this new understanding of the fact that he is a representative of what's actually true and what's real, he has a look at the bullet, examines it briefly, and he recognizes that these bullets have no threat. And that symbolizes the fact that the false is not to be feared. It's just to be understood. And if that sounds a little esoteric, let me explain. Throughout the previous points in the movie, Neo would find himself in all kind of contorted, twisted positions of yoga or limbo, where he would be avoiding these bullets. There'd be weapons fired at him, and he would move and shift and bend and do all kind of contortions in order to avoid being hit by the bullets. But by the end of the movie, he realizes he doesn't need to bend, twist, contort. He just needs to recognize what's true and then to come against what's false. And then the things that are false will fall to the ground harmlessly. And that's a really good word picture for the torrent of ideas, the ammunition of ideas, the matrix of ideas that are coming at us. Who, if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, the idea is that you are so confident in what's real and what's true that any false ideas any bullets fired from the guns of bad ideas that promise human flourishing, you can actually recognize. You don't need to avoid them. You don't need to run from them. You recognize them, you examine them, and then you let them fall to the ground harmlessly. And in order to do so, you have to gain a heart of wisdom in order to be in that kind of secure position where you're not worried about the ammunition of bad ideas. You have to be someone who has gained a heart of wisdom in what's good, true, and beautiful, the actual, the reality. And that's what we have been arguing a biblical worldview provides for the follower of Christ. And so let me now talk briefly about how the Colson Center and the Colson Fellows Program equips a believer living in this matrix of ideas to actually stand firm and be secure and have no need to run or to bend or twist or contort. Chuck Colson is a personal hero of mine. I met him when I was at Dallas Seminary in the mid-'90s, and he was a warrior for preparing Christians to engage culture winsomely and affect culture positively and really create new culture that has more of a bibliocentric or a Judeo-Christian value set, or regaining a value set and making sure that is an important part of what we in the West, what we in America particularly, hold on to as the promise of human flourishing. Judeo-Christian values, we would argue, are the centerpiece and the dynamo of a flourishing culture. And in order to be grounded in a Judeo-Christian worldview, we have to be very familiar with God's grand story, the Bible, and the four movements thereof: creation, fall, redemption, restoration. And Chuck Colson was a cultural observer. He was an observer of the church, and he recognized that mostly the church in the West and the church in America was not equipped with a heart of wisdom to be able to properly stand against the matrix of bad ideas that was being promoted in our culture. And so he began a program called first the Centurions Program, and then it morphed into the Colson Fellows Program. But interestingly, in 1999, that's when the original Matrix came out. Also in 1999, Chuck Colson wrote this, quote, "We live in a culture that is at best morally indifferent." Now, this is 24 years ago. Quote, "We live in a culture that is at best morally indifferent. A culture in which Judeo-Christian values are mocked and where immorality in high places is not only ignored, but even rewarded in the voting booth. A culture in which violence, banality, meanness, and disintegrating personal behavior are destroying civility and endangering the very life of our communities. Weary, we are tempted to withdraw into the safety of our sanctuaries to keep busy by plugging into every program offered by our churches and then hoping to keep ourselves and our children safe from the coming desolation." And so what Chuck is doing here is he's pointing out that culturally Christians are not prepared to engage the bullets, the ammunition of bad ideas, and the essential proposition is that our heart of wisdom is not developed fully enough to have us stand with clarity, confidence, and courage. And clarity and confidence come from a rich, deep understanding of the story that God has written in His Word and how it describes all things. What does it mean to be human? What's wrong with the world? What can be done to fix what's wrong? And where is this story going? That all those four movements are contained in the Bible. That's really the narrative of the biblical text. It answers the question, what does it mean to be human? It answers the question, what's wrong with this world? It answers the question, what can be done to solve it, or what can be done to save us? And then finally, it answers the question, where is this all going? What are the next steps? How is this current season wrapped up? And what's next in God's economy? And the Colson Fellows Program is that very potent season of life for the follower of Christ who wants to be able to stand and examine the ammunition of bad ideas in the matrix of culture, and just to see them for what they are, because of a solid understanding of God's word and their place in the story, to see these bad ideas for what they are and let them drop to the ground harmlessly. And one more step after examining and realizing these bad ideas are not to be feared, believers who have a heart of wisdom can step into the lives of their neighbors and be engaging, be winsome, ask questions, be secure in their own place in the story, and then be an agent of restoration for people who aren't prepared to stand against the matrix of bad ideas and are being riddled with the ammunition of these bad ideas in the matrix of our culture. Ideas that are counter reality, ideas that are counter biology, ideas that are counter common sense and logic. And so the Colson Fellows program was designed to be able to equip believers with this heart of wisdom. Psalm 90 says, teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. And so what I want to do is I want to encourage you to consider the Colson Fellows program for your own equipping, for your own maturity, for your own ability to stand firmly, confidently, and courageously against this ammunition of bad ideas in the matrix of our culture. So I'm going to walk through real quickly what the Colson Fellows program looks like. I am the director of the Austin, Texas area cohort of the Colson Fellows, and we have just finished our academic year, our cohort year from last August of 22 through this month, May of 23. And when I say academic year, that's the way the program is styled, similar to your 2-semester academic years in most school settings, including universities. But this is way beyond an academic pursuit. The Colson Fellows program is academic. It is a bit intellectual, but the result is always transformational. I watch these little fledglings as they begin in August of the academic year, and they're like little fawns who have unsteady, unsure. They're unsure about their steps. Their legs are weak. They're basically just sort of stumbling around. But by the end of the program, they have been changed into clear, confident, and courageous agents of restoration in their culture. And it's just so amazing, so moving, so humbling to watch. And so that's been my privilege. And I'll continue to be involved in the program as well as a director, a leader, a helper at some level. And so I want to introduce you to the Colson Fellows program briefly and challenge you to consider it. If you're someone who says, man, I'm being riddled by the ammunition of these bad ideas, I don't know how to resist my own considerations, what's happening inside of me as I sort of start to accommodate or bow or bend toward these agendas. And I certainly am not sure how to ask good questions or be able to offer something as an alternative to image bearers who were enslaved by these bad ideas. Then this is something I want you to consider. It's rigorous and rewarding at the same time. So the Colson Fellows program, as I've said, is a 10-month program from like August through May, June. Really, it's done in May, but it begins in late July, early August. And so let me just read the summary here. The Colson Fellows program is a 10-month course guiding participants through the intersections of theology, faith, and culture. Students engage in daily devotionals related to contemporary cultural issues, complete curated book studies, and interact with faculty and fellow students from across the country on the Colson Fellows Learning Platform. And so the setup for participating in the program is a very sophisticated, easy to use, but also easily integrated learning platform called Pathright. And this is where all your work would go in. And so let me break down the emphasis in quarter one. The description said it's a 10-month course, but there are 4 different quarters and 4 different emphases. Quarter one, as you launch out in late July, early August, quarter one is designed to saturate you in the idea and the definition of worldview, and to get you familiar with what a worldview is, to convince you that everyone has a worldview. Most people have a worldview that's poorly formed or unconsciously formed. But quarter one is all about what it means to understand that you're being made in the image and likeness of God. That's the devotional focus for quarter one, is the what does it mean to be human aspect of God's grand story. We call that the creation narrative. So quarter one is all about being immersed in worldview definition and getting comfortable with that idea and having that accessible to you. And also the devotional studies are rooted in what it means to be human, or the creation movement of God's grand story. Quarter two has everything to do with the fall, the second component of the second movement, the second chapter of God's grand story. Creation is the first movement, fall is the second movement. And all your devotional study in quarter two will be all about the fall and the effect it has on the individual, the effect it has on families, community, and culture. And so all your work in quarter two in your devotionals will be in the fall. And then all along the way, in quarters 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're reading books. There's reading to the tune of between 10 and 14 books in the entire 10-month period. So before you freak out, if you look at a 10-month program, you're talking about 1.5 books a month. And it's definitely manageable if you discipline yourself. And I can't overstate the value and transformational effect that this program has. So quarter two is about the fall and your devotion, and then considering what it means to recognize, kind of the bullets that are coming at you from culture, what the voices of culture are demanding as to affirmation and acceptance when it comes to what it means to live a flourishing life. And you begin to start to be able to discern and parse, and your heart of wisdom is growing so that you can now be grounded in the good ideas of the biblical text as you grow in this pursuit, and be able to just identify the ammunition of bad ideas that's coming at you. And this is really where you start to turn the corner and start to gain some confidence. Quarter three is more specific flashpoint consideration in culture. Like, what are the current voices saying? What are the current mandates that are coming at us that insist on our assimilation? What are we being told that we must accept? And how does that break down according to what God's word has to say? How do you begin to compare and contrast these flashpoints, if you will, with the truth of God's word? And just some of these flashpoints are really subtle, and they even use religious language. But when you pull back the curtain, they are rooted in anything but a solid understanding of how God has described reality for us and how he's put in place the best plan for flourishing. And so that's quarter three, and all the devotionals there in quarter three are rooted in the redemption narrative. So the creation narrative is, what does it mean to be human? The fall is what's wrong with this world. What can be done to fix it, or how can we be saved, is in the redemption movement. And that's movement 3. And as you turn the corner into quarter 4, the final quarter, the home stretch, you begin to do devotional work in the restoration movement, which is, what's my part in this? Where is this story going? And how do I participate as I have opportunity in this time and place that I've been given? I'm here in this time and this place for a reason. As a redeemed image bearer, what does it mean to be an agent of restoration? And that'll be your devotional life. And in quarter 4, you also begin to formulate some plans for what you can do to teach based on what you're learning, and also what a ministry plan would look like based on your own gifting, your experience, how you are wired temperamentally, what opportunities do you have before you, where are your passions. And so quarter 4 is sort of bringing all this to a fine point with a couple of points of application, being what will you teach, how will you communicate this to somebody specifically in a learning environment, and what's a larger ministry plan for you based on what you're learning here. And quarter 4 and these plans for ministry expression, these application points, are kind of rooted in, for your consideration, four general questions. The first question is, what is good, true, and beautiful that I must promote, resource, and protect? So what's good that I must promote, protect, and resource? Then the second question is, what's evil that I must stand against and resist? The third question is, what or who is broken around me, and what can I do to assist in its healing, assist in its remedy? And then finally, what's missing in my sphere of influence that I can provide via innovation and initiative? So what's good that I can assist, promote, resource, and protect? What's evil that I must stand against and fight? What's broken that needs to be healed that I can assist in that healing? And what's missing that I can provide through initiative and innovation? So those are the four quarters, and it goes by in a in a blink. It's a lot of work. It's rigorous. It's about 10 to 12 hours a week, but it is maybe the best 10 to 12 hours a week of discipleship that you'll ever do in your Christian life. So in the program itself are daily devotionals, like I said. There's reading the books and discussing. There are a variety of videos and webinars. I love the webinars overall. The webinars are with current Christian thought leaders, a lot of the authors of the books that you're reading, and other people who have expertise in the particular moment of cultural flashpoint that we find ourselves. And the webinars are great. So there's a variety of cohorts you can choose from. We have regional cohorts in the larger metropolitan or population centers in the world, in the country, and there are some worldwide. And then we have online cohorts as well, where people meet remotely via Zoom or some other platform in areas that aren't populated enough to have a regional cohort where people meet live. And so the cohorts meet generally once a month to unpack the material from the month before. So, for example, the cohort in April got together to talk about all the content, the devotionals, the reading, the videos, and the webinars that they had processed in March. So April's cohort was an unpacking in a group setting of discussion for March's material. And that's the way the format of the program works throughout the 10-month period. So I think that's it. I'm just going to give you this website, colsonfellows.org. That's COLSONFELLOWS.org for more information. And if you like what's going on with the Pinocchio Project, if you've ever heard me speak, if you've heard me in a teaching environment, and you say, man, that's really centered. That's like a Neo. He's able to recognize this ammunition and see that it's harmless, and then offer an alternative. It's not because there's something magical about me or I've been given some special dispensation. It's because I've chosen to discipline myself in ways that have brought me clarity, confidence, and courage in this cultural moment. Therefore, it's easy for me to say, even in the midst of all this chaos, or maybe especially in the midst of all this chaos, it's a great time to be alive, because I'm equipped to be an agent who's secure in himself and his own faith, and now courageous in going and offering beautiful gospel ideas in place of this toxic ammunition that promises flourishing, but results in consequential victims. So bad ideas have victims. And if you're someone who said, yeah, I mean, I get where Mitch is coming from. I like what I'm seeing here. That the information that he has for me is encouraging. It's helpful. I need more. This is a way to get yourself to a place of clarity, confidence, and courage. It's basic discipleship. I will go to the wall for that proposition. It's not an educational bolt-on. It's not an intellectual exercise on its own. This is true discipleship. Jesus said, you know how to interpret the signs of the sun and the sky and the seasons. Why is it you don't know how to interpret these present times? And we are called to the battle of ideas. 2 Corinthians 10:5. We take every thought captive, every idea we take captive. It's like that bit of ammunition coming at us from the gun of culture and cultural ideas on human flourishing. We can take that bullet, that idea, that projectile, and we just examine it for Christ-like worthiness, we take every thought captive, 2 Corinthians 10:5, against the knowledge of Christ. We quarantine it. We take every thought captive and compare it to all of our confident knowledge and security in Christ, and we examine it through that filter of a biblical worldview. And then Colossians 2:8, we refuse to be taken captive by hollow and deceptive philosophies that are based in the elementary teachings and spiritual propositions of this world rather than on Christ. So in this matrix of ideas, we are called to be equipped to examine in order to take captive well and quarantine and discern, and also refuse to be taken captive when we recognize that an idea is not centered in a Christ-like proposition on what it means to be human, what's wrong with this world, what can be done to fix it or save us, and where is this all going. So colsonfellows.org. I'd be glad to interact with you. You won't find a more vigorous, enthusiastic, passionate devotee of the program. I think it's a must experience for everyone in this cultural moment who wants to be clear, confident, courageous, and make a difference in a way that we can see the next generations more and more healthy as the matrix of bad ideas expands. So I think that's it. Good talking to you. Hope to be more consistent. But until we meet again, this is Mitch Friedman for the Pinocchio Project, signing off.